My name is Eric Gutierrez. I'm your child's counselor here at Whitney High School, as you already know. A lot of colleges are looking for early on. This is a presentation I typically had reserved for 10th graders, but because I'm pretty familiar with the college application process, having been a reader for both UCLA, an application reader for UCLA and for UCI, I've learned quite a bit in terms of what students need and are required in order to remain not just competitive or selective, but rather compelling to that particular institution. I've also seen a lot of seniors who seem to be very ecstatic and happy at the college choices that they have gone and being admitted, but I've also seen a lot of seniors who are a little heartbroken and disheartened because they do work hard and they have 3.8, 9s, etc., and they're not getting into the institutions of their choice, i.e. UCLA or Berkeley within the system and other private schools. So it's really a complex system, and I want to start exposing you early on in 9th grade, and parents of 9th graders will some of the details of what they look at in terms of criteria to get you into college. Any questions you may have regarding specific classes or changes in AP schedules and status and what classes come in next, feel free to contact the department heads, as they are the ones responsible for meeting with their team, and I cannot override what it is that they've done. I can simply guide you through the process. But feel free to contact Mr. Rosenberg, department head of social studies, Mr. Zakowski for science, Ms. Cordova and Ms. Fierro for math. English would be Ms. Palmieri, I think. Okay? So let's get started. Things every 9th grader should know. Besides, whatever gets on your transcript now counts. In 7th and 8th grade, we're pretty lax, kind of nice, relaxing environment here. 7th grade, we wanted you to get acclimated into Whitney High School, have some friends. 8th grade, get a little bit more used to the academic rigor which you're about to embark upon. But 9th grade, everything sticks to your transcript, okay? That means, yes, some private schools look at 9th grade as part of your overall GPA. UC system looks at 9th grade as a base year or a reference year, but your GPA for UCLA admission purposes happens to be 10th and 11th grade. That does not mean they don't look at 9th grade. They do as a reference to indicate to them whether or not you have an upward or downward or stagnant trajectory. So by now you should be prioritizing your study time. You should be going home and studying. Being a student is your job. Your parents have to go to work. I have to go to work. We have to make time to get our work done. Sometimes we're more effective than other times, but being a student is your job. That means turn off the television. Turn off the computers. Parents, I'm letting you point at me and use me as the fall guy. Mr. G said, disconnect your internet if you're not getting your homework done, okay? Parents, you have me as an excuse now. No AIM, no chatting during doing math, during history. It just doesn't work that way. No loud music, no television. Focus. Now, some of you can get away with music in the background. Studies typically show that unless it's classical Baroque music, you're not retaining that information. Okay? Any questions regarding this? Second thing, participate in class. Do not be a wallflower, a fly on the wall. You have to make yourself noticed in the classroom, not by asking silly, dumb questions like, Mr. Jeans, where'd you get your shoes, but rather something engaging and something that has to do with the subject matter in that class. You see, these teachers may be the same teachers you're going to be asking for a letter of recommendation 3 years from now or 2.5 years from now. And if they can't recall having you in the classroom, that says something to your overall participation in class. And don't do it just because there's participation points with Senora Berry or Homestead or whoever you have, but rather because you're interested in what's going on in the classroom in terms of what is being taught. So participate in class. That makes a difference. Be prepared. Some of you I still kind of see wandering down the hallways. Oh, I forgot my book, forgot my paper, forgot my pencil. No, do what you need to do to be prepared. You're in high school. It's expected. I heard a big sigh over there. Get organized. Take a trip to Staples. Figure out a color coding system. Leave a binder in that classroom if you have to. Do whatever you need to do to get organized. Clean your locker. Clean your desktop. Clean your house. We lose more time trying to find things than we would if we organized them to begin with. I'm the first person who probably sets a bad example about this. If you walk into my office, I have to clean it every other 2 weeks, or else I spend all my time trying to find a certain document. But eventually I go back and clean on a regular basis. You should too. Be prepared to study anywhere, anytime. Raise your hand if you're an athlete or in band or have a sport of some sort. It's not easy to manage your time. So while waiting for the bus, while traveling on the bus, while waiting between classes, while waiting for your friend, while waiting during snack, during lunch, whatever need be, squeeze in the time to study. Because you're going to come home dead tired from that swim meet, from that basketball game, from that whatever tennis match, and you're not going to want to study. Get a lot of it out of the way sooner rather than later. Feel free to come on back, and there's some seats over there. Learn to read. It's kind of obvious, you think, right? Well, no. Every textbook has a unique structure. Get to know subtitles. Don't just look at the bold words and say, I'm going to be tested and read everything around the bold words. Look at that first sentence and the last sentence of every paragraph. Look at the first paragraph of the section and the last paragraph of the section. Get into the mind of the authors who are writing that particular book. They're human beings who are writing books, whether they be science-based or social studies or any other type of book. Get to know the subheadings. And definitely get to know your teacher in terms of what they want and expect you to learn from that book. If you have a Rosenberg, you better know what chapter 3, subsection 4 of page 9's title may be. That's the way he tests. Like it or not, that's what he does. So learn how to read. Plan, plan, plan. Parents, if you have an agenda or an iPhone or something and you had today's meeting written down, raise your hand. Students, if you had this meeting down, raise your hand. One first, two people? Okay. You have to write things down or else you forget. All right? Write down your meals. Write down when you're going to sleep. Write down everything that you have planned for that particular day. Listen and take notes. Okay? If it's in the book, there's about a 33% chance of it being on the test. If it's in the book and it comes out of the teacher's mouth, 66% chance of it being on the test. Book, mouth, and they write it up on the board, you have about a 99% chance of it being on the test. Remember, you should write things down. A good little bit of advice, say this is your paper, do a margin about 3 inches in. And on this side, let's say your lecture or your book said George Washington is the first president of the United States. Over here, you can write a question, who was the first president of the United States? So when it comes study time, you just go down your list with the column, studying your own notes. That's one way. In the bottom corner, you can summarize what you learned. That's just one trick. There's many tricks, and many of you study differently. Hand in neat work. You know, what I love to hear is, you're a messy writer, you're going to be a doctor. No, you're not, because you're going to get a C or a D because the teacher can't read your work. Type it up. Do what you need to do. Spend the time to turn in quality, neat work so your teacher doesn't hassle you. Imagine having to read 160 messy essays. It's just not going to be a pleasant time for the teacher, and they're not even going to want to read your stuff, or if they do, they're just going to, I don't know. It's not a good position to be in, if not being able to read your stuff. Ask for help. Here at Whitney, we have an interesting little culture, a culture of partial shame to ask for help. It's okay. You're not expected to learn, to know everything. Ask me, ask teachers, ask an adult, ask your parents. It's okay to need help. I don't understand. If after today's meeting you didn't understand anything, come see me tomorrow. Mr. G, I just didn't get what you were talking about. Okay? And we'll clarify for you. It's not sinful to ask for help. And help other people. Because in the process of knowing something or learning something and helping someone else learn, they're going to ask me questions, well, what about this? What about that? It's going to reinforce what it is that I'm so expected to learn and expected to know.